Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Larry Cedar, and it is Monday, April 20. I'm going to say 6. I could be wrong. Could be 7/27. Like I said, I've lost track of time during the pandemic. And we're here for another session on Sqanning, Sqanning, which is a simple-to-use relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical and mental calm. So we're getting a little bit of a late start today. I usually start around 11 or earlier. Today I got a bit of a slow start. So, which kind of brings me to the topic of today's session. I'm going to get right into that because we like to wait a little bit till people come in. We got a few people. I see we have one person. Hi, Craig. And I usually use that time while we're waiting for some people to come in to discuss some of the aspects of this study. And the key word that keeps popping into my mind this morning, today, is the word resistance. Now, why resistance? Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you, because I am a very resistant person. I am always, I've been doing this for years, for thousands of hours, I am always resistant to start this process of incremental muscular release. It's probably the reason I started late today. And I'm puzzled, and yet I'm not, because something which I clearly believe in, something which I absolutely positively know is of great benefit to me, something which I 100% am sure feels good ultimately, why would something like that be something I am so resistant to begin every day? It's puzzling to me, and yet I know the reason. The reason is this procedure, this practice is based on the concept of contraction and release, and we say the incremental release of muscular tension. Contraction, release. Any of you who've done these sessions with me knows that that's what we do. We set up a contraction and we contrast it to the opposite, which is release. And we're trying to move ourselves in a direction of complete muscular, spiritual, physical release, calm, which is the opposite of contraction. Why wouldn't we want to do that? Why wouldn't we automatically, 10 times a day, almost like a drug, say, I got to get back to that place. I got to get to that place of relaxation and calm. I love it. I'm just going to go do it now. You know what? I want to watch TV, but I got to go do my scanning exercises. Why don't we do that? Myself, someone who has practiced this technique for thousands of hours and years, still, today, I am telling you, I'm being perfectly honest with you, I did not want to start today. Why? And that's the topic I wanted to discuss a little bit before we get into the actual practice. Why would we be so resistant to moving into a place of calm, to moving into a place of centeredness, of being? Why? Why would we resist that? And the answer is very simple. Because in order to get to a place of release, we have to let go of contraction. In order to be open, accessible, calm, relaxed, we need to let go of tension, contraction, constructs, ideas, thoughts, things we hang on to. And we are reluctant to give those things up because we fear instinctively that if we do, we will be lost. We will be vulnerable. We might have feelings that make us uncomfortable. The first thing that someone does when you say, come on, man, relax, is go, hang on. What? Whoa. Because instinctively, when someone tells us to relax, what we hear is let down your guard. Let down your guard. Expose yourself. Be vulnerable. Be open to feelings. Be open to nothingness. Terrifying. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, just in case any of you who have been practicing this with me are finding that, I felt great, but I really don't want to do it again today, or I really don't want to do it ever again, or, I just am not in the mood. I want you to be aware of the fact that resistance is very much a part of the process. If you didn't feel resistance when you started this process, you wouldn't be doing the process correctly, because if you feel resistance, that means you're asking your body to let go and release, and that's a good thing. That's all I wanted to say. So let's get right into the technique. I've spoken enough. This process, which I call scanning, Sqanning, the incremental release of muscular tension for the purpose of achieving a deep state of physical and mental calm, is based on the ideas of a man named Thaddeus Golas. And I won't talk too much about him today. I'll just tell you that, and you can look him up, Golas. And Thaddeus Golas' concept was that the universe is made up of two basic forces: contraction, squeeze your hands together, and expansion, open your hands up. That's it. Everything in the universe is based on those two forces. Everything you look at, observe, experience, touch, think about, is either in a state of contraction or expansion. or some combination of the two. So this technique is an extension of Thaddeus Goulas' concepts. I'm taking that into the body. And this is a very physical approach. And by that I mean, this is not a mind-to-body process. It is very much a body-to-mind process. The goal in this technique is to release your body, the musculature of your body, gradually, incrementally, which will in turn affect and release your mind, which is a muscle of sorts. And the reason I start that way is because the muscles are simple. They can either contract or release. That's all they can do, contract or release. I don't have to use reason to convince my body to do what I want. Not like the mind. You have to reason with the mind. The mind is clever. It's difficult. All I have to do is instruct it to do one of two things. Contract, squeeze your hands together. I've just told my body to contract. Body followed instructions. Or release, let go. And that's where we start with this technique. That's how we start. It's that simple. Squeeze your hands together. And on my count, I want you to completely release that tension in your hands and let that sense of release pass through your entire body. 3, 2, 1, release. And let that sense of release pass through your entire body, from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. Take a deep breath. And I was speaking about resistance a few minutes ago, and the reason I started the technique this way is because no matter how resistant you are, no matter how much someone is saying to you, no, 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 I don't want to do this now, you can say to them, well, look, you can squeeze your hands together, right? And you can release that, right? And they go, yeah. They go, well, just start there. So this is an easy access to the mind, to the soul, to the body. It's an easy way to begin to release, to let go. You're not asking a lot. You're not asking for total release. You're not asking for a total dropping of the armor. You're just saying to yourself or to another person, squeeze your hands together, feel what contraction feels like. And on my count, 3, 2, 1, release. You've just lowered the tension in your body 1%. And it's important that you pay attention to how that felt, that you acknowledge that change. Because when you acknowledge it, you also become aware of the fact that you did it. You set that expansion in motion. You have the power to induce a deep state of relaxation within yourself, but you must do it gradually. So let's do it again. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1, release. And the analogy I like to use is you've taken a drop of food dye, let's say it's deep blue food dye, and you have a glass of clear water, and you drop that food dye in, plop, and it immediately begins to spread and dissipate through the water. That's the feeling I want you to have when you let that sense of release pass through your body, just like the dye spreading through the water. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1, release. Let that sense of release pass through your body. Deep breath. Now, I'm going to keep touching on the concept of resistance today, because that's what we started with. If you felt any resistance to this process when we started, if some part of you felt like, I just don't want to start letting go, I'm just too uptight, I'm too many things I'm thinking about, you are perhaps now feeling a little less resistant. Just by doing this. Squeeze, 3, 2, 1, release. You're gently inducing the concept, the sensation of release back into your body. You are gently coaxing your body to let go of the grip it has on you. Gently, slowly. Now, once your body begins to realize it, it's not in danger. That little bit of release didn't kill it. It's still safe. If anything, you know what? I feel better. The next release will be that much easier and take you that much further. So let's do it again. Squeeze your hands together. This is contraction. This is the state we're in 90% of the day. This is the state we must be in to get things done, to work, to think, to write, to build. Necessary, not bad. It's the reality. But we need to balance our lives. 3, 2, 1, release. Let that sense of release pass through your body. You may even feel a slight tingling go through your body as you just reoxygenated the muscles which perhaps have been deprived of oxygen because you've been subconsciously holding your breath in that state of contraction. And now your body's starting to get the message that it's safe to relax, it's safe to let go. Do it again. Squeeze the hands together. 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. You've just released the tension in your entire body, another 1%. And what matters is not how far you go, but that you go. that you head down that path of release, relaxation, expansion. Because it doesn't matter how far you go, the sensation is the same. You don't need to evaluate how successful you've been at this. All you need to check in on is, did I do it? Did I move? Did I turn the train around? And if you feel that sense of release, you did. You won. You're successful. You got off the treadmill. You turned around and headed the other way. So it's really important that you sit now, and we're going to take 15 seconds and sit in that feeling and study your body and study the changes that have occurred in your body since you started. Close your eyes and just scan your body. Look for pockets of tension. What are you feeling now that's different than you did 2, 3, 5 minutes ago? Is your heart beating more freely? Is your blood flowing more freely? Do you have this sense that your blood pressure has dropped? Do you feel perhaps more settled in your chair? Do you have a sensation that time is slowing down? Do you feel less of a compulsion to be somewhere, to do something, to think something? You are moving in a direction of expansion. Acknowledge that. It's very important that you note to yourself that you did that. You have the capability, the skill to slow yourself down, to release the tension in the muscles, to expand. You did that. And that's all this technique is. 90% of scanning is a heightened awareness of the sensations of your own body. And that gives you a greater control over your sense of being, so that life doesn't get away from you. It doesn't control you. It doesn't take you into this state of panic and neuroses. You at any time can say, hang on, that's contraction. I have the tools to stop that and take myself in another direction. Of course, we have to be, geared up to do our work, but sometimes we go too far. We get overly contracted. We become solid, imploded. And as you know, when something's solid, it can't really work with anything else. You become limited in your abilities. But if you expand, watch what happens. You can then merge with the universe. You have less conflict, less pain, less tension. You're more aware. You're more conscious. You're more accepting. You're more at peace. Deep breath. And you will notice as these sessions go on, I will begin to take more and more frequent and longer pauses, because the goal is to come to a place where you are just being. Where you're just conscious of yourself. You've come back into your own skin. You've stopped reaching out and extending yourself out into the world for satisfaction, and you've found satisfaction right here. Now, why would we be resistant to coming to this place? It makes no sense. But it does make sense, because the body is an instinctive entity, and it seeks to protect us. And we have a rational mind, but the body has an agenda of its own. That's why when something startles you, you freeze up to protect yourself. You don't think, I'd better freeze up now. You just freeze up. Your body has its own agenda. So the body is, in a way, on a separate track. The body doesn't understand that when you say you'll feel better if you let go, it will feel better. It thinks, but if I let go, I'll be vulnerable. So it holds on. So you, with a rational mind, must gently persuade it. Contract. And on my count, 3, 2, 1, release. You've just injected another 1% of release into your body. Deep breath. And that's all we're doing, is gently nudging ourselves in the direction of release. Now, just as there is a spectrum in life of contraction, expansion, and we are moving towards expansion, there is also a spectrum of what I call the think-feel spectrum. We tend to get caught up in our own thoughts to the detriment of our body sometimes, because we get wound up, we get ulcers, we get cramps, we get bad backs, we get all sorts of ailments that are related to the mind taking us places that we just would rather not go. So the body fights it. And eventually it breaks down and you have to go to the doctor, the chiropractor, or a masseuse, or whatever. Your mind has taken you to a place of contraction, a thinking, overthinking place. So just like we're moving from contraction to expansion, we're moving from more of a thinking to more of a feeling state. By releasing the tension in the muscles of the body, you begin to actually feel more. You come more into a sensation, sensorial place. You're more aware of your skin, of your face, of your arms. You have more of a heightened sensation of your body, which in turn takes you out of your mind, which in turn calms you. So this physical approach to relaxation has the added benefit of quieting your mind. Now, I would suggest that at those times when it is most difficult to calm yourself down, when you're sitting and your mind is racing and I can't sit still, I've just got too much to do and think about, I recommend that you scan and that you take your full concentration and put it into feeling the distinction between contraction and expansion. I want you to put your entire concentration into the sensations of your body and really put your full focus on expanding that sense of release throughout your body. Your full, complete, absolute attention. Again, you're only moving yourself 1%. But if you put your full concentration into that, I will guarantee you, based on my experience, you will quiet your mind. It's almost as if you can't think and feel at the same time. So when you put all your focus into a feeling task, if you put all your focus into a task which requires that you feel more, that you open, expand, it will tend to quiet your mind. That's the added benefit. There are certain things we can think ourselves, there are certain problems we can think ourselves out of trouble. But a lot of times we just can't. You can't think yourself out of this one, is the expression. But perhaps you can feel yourself out of it. So I recommend you give that a try. I'm an actor by profession. And one of the challenging things about being an actor is you must be an excellent thinker as well as an excellent feeler. You must be able to bring your emotions to the surface, expose yourself, be vulnerable, but at the same time be smart enough to know how to hit your mark, to do your blocking, to learn your lines. So it's a very strange profession, but you will notice that a lot of very successful actors, really brilliant actors, and any names come to mind, Marlon Brando, Meryl Streep. Their brilliance is that they can feel so deeply and yet are so smart. So smart. It's very rare. A lot of times actors will be people who feel a lot, but they're kind of messed up or kind of crazy, It's because they're very far into the feeling zone. And they'll say, if I could just corral that actor and get him in front of a camera, I'll get some great shots. That's an interesting person, but geez, they're late on the set. They don't know their lines. They're not really good at relating to people. Maybe they just aren't such good thinkers, but they got the emotional part together. At the same time, if a person is an excellent thinker and is a bit cut off from their emotions, people tend to think they're cold and not very inviting as people. So this is the spectrum again we're working on. Contraction, expansion, think, feel. Thoughts are a contraction, a putting together, a bringing together of concepts, and we hold on to them. But when you go to release, when you go to expand, you must let go of your thoughts and feel. Okay? Deep breath. Now take stock for a moment of where you are as compared to when you started. Now I admitted to you, when we started, I was very resistant to starting today. The excuse in my mind was, I just don't feel like it. I'm feeling pretty relaxed. What do I got to do this for? I didn't want to do it. Trust me, take resistance as a sign that you really need to be doing this. Because if you're relaxed and someone says, how about we relax? You go, sure, why not? It feels good, you know it. But if you're resistant, that's a sign that you're holding on to something. And that's the perfect time to scan, to release, to expand. So let's do it again. A lot of philosophy today. We're leaning a little bit more on the philosophy and theory of this technique than usual. Some days I'll do just the technique. Some days I'll talk more about the theory behind it. Today I was talking about it primarily because I struggle with this just like everyone else. I do this technique religiously because I struggle with this continuum of contraction, expansion. I tend to be an overthinker. I obsess on things and I get physically tense. That's why I've so religiously devoted myself to the process and why I'm so excited about it, because I know it works. But that said, when I start, I face the same resistance as anyone else. I would never claim to be a calm, centered person by nature. Never. This helps get me there. And for that, I'm grateful. Squeeze your hands together. This is contraction, one of the two forces in the universe. In the universe, there's either contraction or expansion, or some combination of the two. We live in a world of contraction 90% of our day. We are trying to, through this process, scanning, induce the opposite, a sense of expansion, release, relaxation, to get back a balance to our lives, because you need both. The truth is, you need both. I can't be walking around relaxed all day. I couldn't walk around if I was that relaxed. We do need to involve ourselves in our life. We do need to think about things, build things, write things, have relationships. These are all contractions. But we can't get so contracted that we become limited. To our detriment, we must learn how to also expand. And that's what this practice is all about. Sqanning is the incremental release of muscular tension to induce a deep state of physical and mental calm, something we can all use these days. Now, if I was to take an assessment of myself, if I started at a 10 today, I would say I'm at about a 6. Today's been good. The little bit of technique I practice here has brought me into that more expanded state. So let's continue. Squeeze your hand together. Hands together. That's contraction. Very important that you pay attention to how that feels, because on the count, you're going to release. 3, 2, 1, release. Let that sense of release pass through your entire body. Deep breath. You have just expanded another 1%. You've moved yourself in that direction. Take a moment to experience what that feels like. How does expansion feel as compared to contraction? Register, retain, memorize, study. Get better at it. Again, you feel possibly more comfortable in your chair. A sort of stillness comes over you. Time seems to have slowed down. You're breathing more deeply. You're perhaps having sensations in places that you weren't feeling anything a moment ago. My legs are tingling a little bit. My feet are throbbing a little bit. These are all signs that you are expanding. Let's do it again. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1, release. And like a drop of dye in a glass of clear water, let that sense of release spread through your body. Deep breath. And remembering now that deep breaths, the impulse to breathe deep, is an excellent sign that your body is getting on board with this program, that it's seeing that it is safe to relax, to breathe. Take those breaths. So again, watch for these signs. Resistance when you start, perfect. If you feel that you don't want to do it, perfect. That means there's some tension, some contraction in there that you need to release, because your body initially will say, no, perfect. That means there's something in there that needs to be worked on. Resistance is a good sign, contrary to what we believe. We feel resistance and goes, oh, that's a sign I shouldn't do it. No, it's the opposite. When you feel resistance to relaxing, releasing, and expanding, that means there's something in you that's holding on that needs to be released. So go for it. Second clue, when you start feeling an impulse to breathe more deeply, take those breaths. Again, another sign you're headed in the right direction. Other signs are feeling more comfortable in your chair, feeling a stillness come over your body, a sense of quiet, a lessening of a feeling of compulsion that there's somewhere you need to be, there's something you need to do, there's something you need to be thinking about. All those things begin to dissipate. You begin to come into a state of just being. And you can stay in that state as long as you like. You can do this process for 2 minutes, 1 minute, 15 minutes, half hour, an hour. It's up to you. What I always say is it doesn't matter how long you practice. What matters is that you start. Because by starting, you're acknowledging that this is a valid tool in your toolkit of life. This has value. Taking time, sitting, doing nothing, coming back into yourself, relaxing the musculature, calming the mind, having a moment of peace has value. So we should do it. It's good for us. The only problem people have is they don't know where to start. You say to someone, you need to relax, and they go, I know, but how? Well, what do? We reach out for drugs, alcohol. We can go to people who help us, masseuses, chiropractors. There's a million things we can do. We can watch movies. We can watch Netflix. We can watch the internet. We can play video games. These are all valid in a way. And I say in a way because they may make you, in the short term, feel good, but all they're really doing sometimes is distracting you from the deeper tension that you're holding. And they're also external. forces. These are things you have to reach outside of yourself for. So you begin to feel dependent. I gotta watch that TV show. I gotta have that drink. I gotta have a cigarette. I gotta go to the therapist. I gotta go to the chiropractor. I gotta go on the internet for a while. You'll hear people say this to you. Listen, just don't bother me right now. I gotta go play some video games. Okay, just leave me alone. Okay, but in a way, it's self-defeating because you've taken the power away from yourself and you've invested it in this external entity. So you feel weakened in a sense. The reason that addiction or dependency feels so terrible and is so depressing is that you feel at the mercy of an external power, an external force. I gotta have this thing to feel better. I gotta have that thing. You gotta get it. Sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you gotta pay a ton of money for it. And that makes you feel bad about yourself because you don't feel like you have any power. You're dependent upon this thing. So yeah, go for it. Involve yourself in the things that make you feel good, but just never forget that you should also learn to empower yourself, to know that you can sit in a room with absolutely nothing in it. Tune into yourself, let go of your thoughts, release your tension in the musculature, and feel absolutely fantastic just being. That is a high like no other high. I got to tell you, to be able to sit and do nothing and feel fantastic and fulfilled and complete and happy and optimistic and healthy, it's insane. Because it's all coming from you. You have that within you. It's astounding, the power of wellness and joy we have just in being. And we forget that because we involve ourselves in these external things. Now, I'm not saying you should not do these things. I'm saying, remember, you need a balance. You need to know that these things give you joy, that they bring you thrills, that they give you money, all these external things. But you also need to remember that you can also have that for yourself, by yourself, and that you don't need to have any of those things. All those things can all go away. You're always going to have yourself until the day you die. This is here. As they say, God willing, you have a nice, long, healthy life. And if you can be satisfied with just being yourself, just being with you, is there anything greater for boosting your self-esteem than knowing you can be self-satisfied just being? How terrific is that? That's why I'm addicted to it. Because with all that's going on in the world right now, and with all the stresses and strains of my work, and I know yours, and everything else that happens in life, it's really empowering to know that you can bring yourself to a place of satisfaction and calm and peace and joy. And all that you're giving, all you've provided for yourself is yourself. It's a celebration of self. And I hate to sound corny, but I'm not kidding. It's addictive. It's a high like no other. Nonetheless, I will say, I still resist every time I start because we are conditioned to believe that it's all out there. And if I let go of all that stuff, what will I have? Even though I've done this for thousands of hours and I know it feels good, I still have that initial resistance because instinctively it feels weird to let go and be, in a sense, nothing. But in being nothing, you are everything. It all starts here. Everything you involve yourself in life starts with who you are, knowing who you are. So take the time to come back to yourself, recharge, reacquaint yourself with yourself, and do that by letting go, expanding, releasing, relaxing. And that's what this is about. I call it scanning, Sqanning. And the reason I call it that is it's an allusion to scan as a body scan, like you would scan your body looking for pockets of muscular tension. I used the letter Q just to make it memorable. But it is the incremental release of muscular tension for the purpose of achieving a deep state of physical and mental calm. We start incrementally because it's the easiest, simplest, least resistant access to the self. Nothing is easier than squeezing your hands together and letting go. You don't need to read a book. You don't need to open an app. You don't need to consult a guru. And I am no guru. I am just like everybody else. I do this every day for myself, not because I have an obligation to teach, but because I need to do this. And I share it because it validates for me the value of the process. So you don't need to consult. You don't need to come back here to these sessions. You don't need to write it down. You don't need to read a book. This can be done anywhere, anytime, and all it takes is squeezing your hands together, feeling what it feels like to be contracted. Two forces in the universe, contraction, expansion. You're reacquainting yourself with both. Contraction, what that feels like. 3, 2, 1, release. Pay attention what that feels like. And like a drop of dye in a clear glass of water, Feel that release pass through and extend into your entire body. Go with that impulse to take a deep breath. And then sit in stillness and silence and register that change. What we're doing here is studying and becoming an expert at the process of release. That's what we're doing. That's all we're doing. Reacquainting ourselves. Reintroducing that back into our lives. Whether you're a religious person or not, the concept of prayer is something some people put into their lives and some people don't. There are people that swear by the process of prayer. They say it improves their lives. So you might think of this as a prayer of sorts. It's something you bring into your life, make part of your life to balance your life. I wouldn't call this a prayer, but it's a process that you have a choice to participate in that you may perhaps recognize as good for you. So you're studying, you're improving your capacity to release. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1, release. There it goes again. It's spreading through my body. Deep breath. Now just take 10 seconds. Scan your body, study every inch of your body, and see how that changed your body. Are you feeling 1% more relaxed than you did a moment ago? Excellent. You've done it. Are you feeling more settled in your seat? Are you thinking a little bit less, just a little bit less, about the things you've been obsessing about? Are you feeling in a little bit less of a hurry to go do that thing you've been thinking about doing all day? Are you thinking a little bit less about that video game? Or, not to be humorous, that pint of ice cream, or that joint, or that beer? Are you letting go of these external solutions because suddenly you're feeling an internal solution that feels as good or better than all of them? Literally, it almost makes you high. Coming back into yourself, feeling yourself. The only reason anyone would resist going through this process, because it feels so good, is because they didn't know how good it felt, or they'd forgotten. And you will. Your body will take you back into a state. As soon as we're done here and I'm done here, I'll go back into the world, then I'll start obsessing and fretting about things and get all worried, and I'll forget how good this felt. It's just a function of being a human. It's crazy. Like I said, I don't consider myself an expert at this, but I do it a lot. And I instinctively forget how good it felt. I get caught up in the world of externals, of reaching out for things, of contracting, of building structures as a solution to my life and my sense of well-being. So, when it's time to do this again, which I will this afternoon, I'm resistant once again. I've done it thousands of hours, and I still forget how good this felt. My hope is, for myself and for you, that the more time I spend doing it, and I'm talking over the long course, the more time I spend involving myself in this sense of release, the more it will become a part of my life and instinctive, and I really won't have to feel resistant anymore, but I doubt it. I'm a human being, so we protect ourselves. So practice this as much or as little as you want, but know that I've taught you everything you need to know, as far as I can tell, for what works for me, and that is heighten your sense of release by practicing contraction and release. Study it. Here we go. A few more times, then we're going to call it a day. It's been great. Squeeze your hands together. That is contraction. That's what we spend 90% of our day doing. Squeeze tight. 3, 2, 1, and release. Let that sense of release pass all the way into your chest, your arms, your face, the back of your head, your neck, your stomach, your pelvis, and all that that implies with all the sexual and elimination areas. These are very sensitive. We hold a lot of tension there. Down into your legs, into your feet. You'll feel a slight throbbing as your body starts to let go, and the body will take over at some point. At some point, the body will go, oh, I get it. This feels good, man. I got this. And the body will just start to let go. I'm feeling it now. It's crazy. Once the body gets with the program, you don't have to do any of this mumbo jumbo stuff at all anymore. Let it happen and just sit in it. And then just leisurely scan your body, looking for pockets of tension you may have missed. A little tension in my foot. I can let that go. 3, 2, 1, release. There, you did it. Moving up to my stomach. A little tension there. 3, 2, 1. Come on. Release. A little less there. You have the power to do this. Okay? The face. 3, 2, 1. Release. I'm unwinding. I'm untying. I'm loosening the strings. The back of the head. 3, 2, 1. Release. Now I can feel the body just sinking into my chair. It's starting to happen now of its own accord. The body is resistant, but it's not that dumb. It knows what feels good. And if it senses there's a party going on, it'll join in. The body will say, Oh man, this feels good. No problem. I see. I'm not going to die because I let go. In fact, I'm going to feel kind of good. And I feel pretty safe. If anything, I feel safer because now I'm really relaxed. And so I'm more aware of my environment. I can handle anything. So it's actually a safer place to be. So let that happen. Sink into it. If someone said to me, how can I do this technique? I don't want to spend a half an hour or 45 minutes listening to you, talk on and on like this. What can you tell me? 4 words. How to practice this technique. Just give me something I can go away with. I really haven't got time. I got 40 other websites I got to go look at, and I got 20 other video games. I got stuff I got to get back to. Okay, so just come on. Just tell me, Larry, what can I do? Here's what I'd say. 4 words. Be still. Be silent. I'm sorry, say it again. Simple. Be still. Be silent. Now go about your day. Now, if you took nothing else from this session, I would be thrilled. Because if you can take a minute, once a day, twice a day, whatever you like, sit down and be still and be silent. You will be amazed at how far that will take you into a state of being, of calm, of release, of expansion. Because to be still and to be silent is to let go, as I said, of all those external things which we're hanging on to. So I leave you with that. How long have we gone? My goodness, I went over half an hour again. I would say, and I think it's important if you've been here the whole time, or even if you just joined in, that you take a quick assessment of your body and you see, where was I when I started and where am I now? If you were at an 8 and you move to a 7, fantastic. A 10 to a 6, great. A 9 to a 2, fantastic. It never matters how much you released. Of course, the more you release, the better you'll feel. What really matters in these sessions is that you begin to have a heightened awareness of the sense of release. Plus, you begin to acknowledge its value and you begin to incorporate it into your life. And as you practice this more and more, it'll become more instinctive. You'll start to realize that in life, you'll be in a situation and where you would normally be really tense, you'll have a sense of like, wait a minute, I'm becoming contracted. I know what that is. I've practiced that. And I know how to release the tiniest bit. 3, 2, 1, release. Just back off. Take your foot off the gas, man. You could do that for yourself because you've studied and you've begun to incorporate this skill into your life so you can live a more balanced life. And I say balance because by no means am I telling anyone to eliminate the stresses and strains and projects and thoughts that are part of their life. That's what it is to be a human being. It's to be alive. It's to think. It's to build. It's to act. It's to study. It's to work. That's what it is to be alive. When you stop doing that stuff, you're dead. I'm in no way telling anyone to stop doing any of that. All I'm saying is balance your life by also recognizing the value of the opposite of those contractions, and that is release. Reintroduce the concept of release back into your life. Enjoy the self-esteem it gives you. Enjoy the self-empowerment it gives you. Enjoy the health it gives you, the calm, the clarity of mind. Enjoy what balancing your life can do for you. This process of scanning is just a trick. It's just a technique which I devised to bring myself to that state. What's more important to you is that you acknowledge and find your own way into that state of release. It doesn't matter how you do it. As I always like to say, if you're looking for the moon and someone says, there it is, and points to the moon, once you've seen the moon, you can put the hand down because there it is. You don't need the technique. You don't need the device. You don't need the word scanning. You don't need anything. You just want to get there. If you have a way to get there, do it. All I'm seeking is for people to acknowledge the value of balance, the value of release, calm, stillness, quiet. It's helped me, and I'm hoping it will help you. So that's today's session. Again, it's called Sqanning. Today it's called Sqanning. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow? Sqanning. It is the incremental release of muscular tension for the purpose of achieving a deep state of physical and mental calm. And as I said today, at its essence, what is scanning? Be still, be quiet. Now, I do have a Facebook page. This is my personal page I'm streaming on, Larry Cedar, but if you are so inclined, I would appreciate your going to the Sqanning Facebook page, Sqanning, and like and follow the page, because eventually I'm going to move all these sessions over there. So again, that's Sqanning on Facebook. You can also see any or all of these sessions on YouTube, the YouTube station for Sqanning, Sqanning. I will repost this session immediately after we finish on my personal page. It'll stay up for about 24 hours. Then I will move it over to the Sqanning Facebook page, where you can see all of my previous sessions, including this one. And thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I know these are very stressful times. Again, I do this for myself, to calm myself down, to keep my own presence of mind, to keep my own sense of well-being. And I hope it's helped you as well. Sharing it for me validates the value of the process, because, you know, we drift in and out of approaches to life. And I really feel instinctively like this is an important one. And I just think that if we could all calm ourselves down a little bit, the world would be a better place. Much love. Take care. And I will see you possibly this afternoon, but certainly tomorrow around the same time. Take care. Bye-bye.